Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis dated 20th November 2024. These are the list of the topics that I've taken from today's Hindu newspaper, plus one more article from yesterday's edition of Hindu. Because yesterday Chetan sir took the Hindu News Analysis. He told me, because this is an economic topic, he asked me to cover this in today's session. So 9 articles from today's newspaper and 1 article from yesterday's newspaper. Totally 10 articles. And out of these 10 articles, before you start typing, sir, which are important for prelims and which are for mains, the first 4 articles, no doubt, are relevant for both prelims plus mains. And the remaining 6 articles mainly will be focused on prelims based discussion. With this caveat, let me start the discussion. But before that, a very important announcement. After the discussion is over, in our Telegram channel, we publish questions on the topics that are covered in today's discussion. If you want to attempt those questions, all you need to do is basically scan the QR code displayed here, join the Telegram channel, and you can attempt the MCQs on the topics covered today. Let me start the discussion. The first article, editorial, how India could counter CBAM, and that is the carbon border adjustment mechanism. Let me start with the basic idea now. Just like India has a target of becoming net zero emission by 2070, in the same way, the European Union, which is a grouping of 27 countries, has a target of becoming net zero emission by 2050. In order to achieve these targets, or in order to become net zero emission by 2050, multiple reforms have been proposed and some of them already in implementation. One such reform which has been announced by the European Union is the carbon border adjustment mechanism. What is the issue all about? What is the problem? Why developing countries such as India and China are opposed to the CBAM? Let's try and understand this. The CBAM has been proposed and will come into force from 2026 in order to address one issue that the European Union faces, that is carbon leakage. What do you mean by carbon leakage? The European Union countries will import goods and services from other market. Let's say steel which is manufactured in India, aluminium, cement, fertilizer, etc., which is manufactured in India or China, is exported to European Union. Now the problem that EU says is the standards for emission in their economies are very strict. They want to control the emissions. But in many of the other countries, especially countries such as India and China, there the emission norms or the standards are much more relaxed. And because these are much more relaxed, the manufacturers in European Union markets, rather than producing and selling in their market, that is within the European Union, they will export this manufacturing to other countries where the standards are much more relaxed. Which essentially means these products which are manufactured in other countries, they will cause very high emissions. They will be imported into the market of European Union and will be used for production or for the purpose of sales for consumers. So the problem is carbon leakage here. That is, they are exporting the manufacturing, or they are basically taking the manufacturing out of European Union and they are giving it to countries or other manufacturers located in other countries, which will cause a lot of emissions or much higher emissions compared to the standards within the European Union. This is called as carbon leakage. Now to address the problem of carbon leakage, European Union has proposed CBAM. Under CBAM, the model says that whenever these imports will happen from other countries, let's say cement, fertilizer, or steel, aluminium, etc., whenever these imports will come from other markets, now the importing country, that is within the European Union, will compare how much is the emission caused by this production in the host country or in the origin country. That is, let's take a simple example now. Steel is manufactured in India and is exported from India to, let's say, European Union, any one of the countries within the EU. Now they'll basically compare, because of the production of the steel in India, what was the emission cost? What were the emissions cost? And are these emissions much higher compared to what are the standards allowed in European Union market? And whenever there are excess amount of emissions caused, whenever there's a higher emission caused in India compared to their standards, they will calculate and impose a certain amount of tariff when this steel will enter into EU market, that is the European Union market. This is basically the process of CBAM, which has been proposed by European Union last year. Many countries, including India and China, have opposed it. And in recent meetings, that is specifically in COP29, which is being held at Baku, there is a lot of opposition, lot of, let's say, concerns which are raised by India as well as China regarding the concept of a CBAM. Now, what has happened so far? Let me tell you, and then I'll tell you what are the recommendations given by the authors in this newspaper article. What has happened so far is, the European Union says it will be implemented covering certain commodities from 2026, and over a period of time, the coverage of goods, especially from multiple countries, the coverage of the goods will start to be expanded. They will cover more and more number of goods which are imported into European Union market over a period of time. Now, the concern that has been raised by India and China is point number one. Listen to me carefully. The CBAM is a measure which is a trade barrier. This is a trade barrier, which essentially the argument which is put forward by these countries is that it is essentially a trade barrier which has been proposed and is being imposed on us unilaterally by European Union. But having said so, European Union is not the only, right, let's say, group of countries or only importer which is thinking of CBAM measures. Many other countries, they are also considering imposing CBAM in one or the other different form. So point number one, it is a trade barrier which has been disguised, which has been packaged as a measure to protect climate. And this will target certain countries such as India and China, because understand this, European market is very important for both of these countries. Take the example of India here. Out of the total exports that are done, specifically merchandise exports, more than 20% of this enter into European Union market, which essentially means as a trading destination for us. As an exporting country, European Union is very, very important for India. And within this, a large chunk of it or a substantial chunk of it is in the form of fertilizer, cement, steel, aluminum, which are supposed to be covered from 2026 under CBAM. So this is the first concern. Second concern is, imagine I'm a manufacturer of a steel, I'm manufacturer of a cement, etc. I will procure multiple raw materials. I cannot have control, or I do not have any kind of control on what kind of emissions are being done by other suppliers who are supplying to me. That is the problem. All the activities in the supply chain are not under my control. All the activities in the supply chain are not under my control. That is the second concern which has been raised by developing countries. Third concern, and all of these are basically raised by India and China and many other countries. The third concern is, both India and China wanted to have a talk, negotiate with European Union countries regarding the CBAM policy under WTO, World Trade Organization. And when they raised this particular issue during the talks under WTO, the European Union countries stated that the CBAM is a measure regarding climate. And World Trade Organization generally focuses on trade measures. So it is not the right forum. We shall not discuss it under WTO. We will discuss it somewhere else. Now the COP29 has started. The talks are happening. Negotiations are taking place. On the first day itself, China moves a resolution. China introduced a resolution asking that there should be a formal inclusion in the agenda of the discussion. There should be an inclusion regarding these kind of barriers or these kind of unilateral measures which are being proposed by multiple countries. In fact, the proposal which was put forward by China, which was discussed and again not accepted, the proposal did not even mention CBAM. The proposal simply said there are multiple unilateral measures which are being proposed, which are barriers but are packaged, are guised in the form of climate protection. They should be taken up for discussion. It should be included in the formal agenda. And because in the COP, that is Conference of Parties, the decision is generally undertaken with a consensus, many of the European Union members said, we do not want this to be discussed here. Now their argument was, this is not the right forum for discussion. And against this, there was a retaliation. China basically stated that when we raise this issue under WTO, you say this is not the right forum. When we raise the same issue under climate discussions at the COP, UNFCC's Conference of Parties, you say this is not the right forum. So if not under WTO, if not under Conference of Parties, then where should we discuss this? And you have proposed it to be implemented from 2026. We are worried. We are concerned about these kind of unilateral measures. So these are some of the concerns which have been raised, right, by multiple countries, including India and China and many other basic countries regarding the CBAM proposal, which has been, which is supposed to be implemented from 2026. Now, what is the way forward then? Many experts, including these two who have written the article here, they argue that India and China are trying to negotiate with group of countries which are developed countries. And if India and China have to put forward their argument in a forceful way, which is acceptable, which is recognized by the European Union countries, they will have to change their strategy. There is a need to change the strategy now. What should be the strategy? What should be the way forward? And why there should be a change in the strategy? The argument is, every developing country doesn't have the same amount of trade relation with European Union. India might have very high amount of trade. China might have a high amount of trade. Same cannot be said for many other developing countries. So there is a need to bring all the developing countries to agree to what we are saying. And only trade cannot be the point which has been raised by these countries, which is acceptable to all the developing countries. So one, you have to change the strategy because all the member countries do not have only one, let's say, idea or one kind of a connection to European Union market. Second, even if the developing countries are exporting and conducting trade with European Union, doesn't mean they will export these commodities which are covered under CBAM. That is also a very important point. Third one, many of these developing countries are not going to be affected by the same way, in a same manner when the climate changes as other developing countries would get affected. So there is a need to change the strategy. What should be the new strategy then? That is basically the way forward. What should be the way forward in this particular case, which has to be followed by, let's say, India? First one, they need to argue stating that the CBAM is supposed to be implemented and you are trying to reduce the target or basically reduce the emission by so and so within so much period of time. Will the CBAM provide the same kind of, or if you follow the CBAM, is it possible for other developing countries also to meet that time frame? Don't you think the time required for meeting the conditions that you have imposed under CBAM will vary from one developing country to another developing country? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about whether the CBAM offers this kind of a flexibility. Second one, with imposition of CBAM, the European Union is expected to collect over 5 billion and up to 14 billion euros. Annually, they are expected to collect in the range of 5 billion to 14 billion euros. And European Union says, we will use all of this as our finances. We will use it as a revenue for our finances. The argument should be, why should only European Union be allowed to use the finances? Why can't they basically take part of it, give it to other countries, give it to developing countries, which can use the money for technological adaptation, which can be used to overcome the issues of climate change, etc. That should be one more point which will basically rally or the other developing countries to follow the argument of India and protest against the CBAM measures which are proposed by the European Union. And third very important recommendation or the way forward which has been provided is, why should they have, that is European Union, why should they have same type of a tariff, right, which is imposed on these exports coming from other countries? Why same tariff? If steel is produced, let's say in USA and exported to European Union, and steel is produced from India and exported to European Union, the tax rate or the tariff under CBAM should be different. Reason being, the country such as USA has polluted very highly, has contributed very high to the pollution in the past decades, and as a result of that, they have become developed country now. India on the other side, no doubt, it is also contributing to pollutions because of, let's say, production, but historically speaking, the contribution to the emission or the pollution done by India is much lower compared to that of USA. That is the reason this particular point of the idea of the accountability, the per capita income, the emissions, historical emissions caused should also be raised by India, which shall be acceptable to other developing countries, and they also shall become a part of this discussion with the European Union markets. So these are certain very important points regarding the article CBAM which are mentioned here. Now, based on this, I've given a mains answer writing practice. Please have a look at the question here. CBAM being implemented to protect climate is a unilateral measure which may affect multilateral cooperation. Elaborate in 15 marks for 250 words. You can write introduction regarding CBAM. You can write what is the concept of a CBAM in short, and this is being proposed by European Union market, and what is the reason to address the issue of carbon leakages, to promote climate protection, etc. Then you can come to the main body. What are the concerns by developing countries regarding this CBAM policy? Can you quote another example in the past where such kind of policies have been implemented by developed countries which is hurting developing country? For example, let me give you one example so that you understand the logic here. All of you heard of Agreement on Agriculture, AOA, Agreement on Agriculture, which is one of the agreements under World Trade Organization. Very recently, many countries led by United States of America have alleged that India is violating the provisions under Agreement on Agriculture, where it is providing very high amount of subsidies for agriculture commodity. But Government of India says the methodology that you are using to calculate is faulty. According to my methodology, it is below this percentage. We are meeting the conditions under Agreement on Agriculture, etc. This argument aside, one of the biggest criticisms against Agreement on Agriculture is that the methodology or the provision, etc. provided under AOA, that is Agreement on Agriculture, is favored towards developed countries and is biased against developing countries. That is a particular policy which has been implemented in the past. India is a signatory to this, but today this kind of a policy is hurting us in the sense that developing countries are trying to use this policy to limit the growth in the agriculture sector. Of course, yes, there are certain valid arguments whether Government of India should continue to provide the kind of subsidies that they provide to farmers. But overall, the criticism is that a policy at the global level, an agreement at the global level is being used by developed countries to limit, to control production in developing countries. So this kind of an example you can also basically provide and say, yes, these policies might be misused in the future, can be used by developing countries to limit the growth in the Indian economy. And after that, you can provide the way forward. Just now we have discussed the way forward as well. Okay, so this is how you write an intro, main body, as well as the conclusion for this kind of a question very easily within 250 words. Now, in addition to this, I have also given an MCQ assignment. MCQ assignment number 28. Consider the following statements. UNFCCC has held the COP every year since 1995. CBAM has been proposed to address the issue of carbon leakage. Two statements are there. Try it. If you do not know the answer, do not worry. Have patience. At the end of the session, I'll tell you the key answer. Before I go to the next article, on weekly basis, I do provide a lot of, let's say, newspaper articles which are from Indian economy part. That is from Economic Times, Business Line, Hindustan Times, right, or Mint for that matter, Business Standard for that matter, etc. Because I believe that the Hindu newspaper, no doubt, has certain coverage regarding, let's say, certain articles which are affecting Indian economy, which are relevant for civil services examination. But at the same point of time, I am of the strong opinion that the amount of coverage provided in Hindu, the number of articles provided in the Hindu are not sufficient for you to meet UPSC requirements. So what is the solution then? All you need to do is scan this QR code and you will be able to join my private Telegram channel. That is not the Unacademy IS Telegram channel, my Telegram channel. On weekly basis, I'll give you certain articles from different newspapers to read, update your current affairs, and I'll also give you questions for which you can read the editorials which are provided and attempt answer writing, because that will also help you in writing descriptive answer writing practice. So all you need to do is scan and join the channel. Okay, let me go to the next article. Tariff on Chinese imports. Is imposing the tariffs on Chinese imports a good idea? This has appeared in text and context page in today's Hindu newspaper. What is the issue all about? The presidential elections in USA are over. Mr. Donald Trump has been elected as the next president. Now, during the election rallies, or even as a proposal, he has stated that once he becomes the president, he will be imposing tariffs. He will be imposing high amount of tariffs on imports from China. He has proposed to impose a 60% tariff on Chinese imports and 10% tariffs on European Union imports. This article discusses what is the likely impact of this policy. And in the last column, they provide certain very important conceptual knowledge as to how countries can overcome this kind of a tariff policy which is proposed by US President now. Now, what are the points? Let's go one by one. The government of USA earlier also has proposed and implemented higher amount of tariffs on multiple imports which are coming. When Mr. Donald Trump was the president earlier, from 2016 to 2020, he targeted multiple imports coming from China and many other countries also. For example, India's exports of steel and aluminium and the same products which came from multiple countries into USA were targeted and additional tariffs or higher tariffs were imposed. The argument which has been put forward by the president is simple here. When you have higher tariffs on the imports will become costlier. The imports will become costlier. And when the imports will become costlier, the manufacturers, or let's say the importers, rather than importing, now will start sourcing from the domestic market. Will start sourcing these commodities from the domestic market. This will promote production in the American market, and this is basically the agenda that they basically call this as America First policy. America First policy. That is, they want to promote investment production of goods and services within the domestic market. This is one side of the argument. But the counter argument to this is, many of these particular companies, or let's say importers, rather than sourcing from the domestic market, because the domestic market product could be much higher priced now, or may not be available in the domestic market, will continue to import this commodity at a higher price. They will continue to import this at a higher price. And when they import this at a higher price, automatically cost of production increases. And when the cost of production increases, this will essentially lead to higher market prices, causing higher inflation in USA market, which will lead to higher inflation in the domestic market, that is in the USA market. So this is a counter argument. But the argument of Mr. Donald Trump is, when you impose higher tariff, the exporter will pay for these particular tariffs, which is not technically correct, because the importer will have to pay for higher import, and that will basically lead to inflation in the domestic market. Now this is basically one argument and the counter argument. Now let's say if China wants to prevent or wants to basically minimize the kind of impact the tariffs will have on Chinese exports, what is the solution? What policies can the Chinese government use to minimize this kind of an impact? Because mind you, even the Chinese economy is facing certain issues in the form of slowdown. The government of China very recently has taken multiple measures in order to boost production and consumption in the domestic market, because there is a slowdown, there is a lower demand for goods and services, especially real estate. There is a drop in the demand for the real estate units, which basically is causing a lot of problems in the economy in China. So in order to boost production, consumption, investment, etc., multiple reforms have been announced by the Chinese government in the recent times, or in the last 1 month itself. Now, if the president of USA, the new president of course, will increase the amount of tariffs which are imposed on Chinese exports, this will further cause headache for Chinese economy. So what is the solution then? Although I'm discussing this from the context of China, you can generalize it and remember this as a policy that is available for the exporting country to reduce the impact on tariffs imposed by importing country. What are the measures? What are the policy solutions? Point number one, the exporting country's government can go for devaluation of their domestic currency. Devaluation of their domestic currency. Because please understand, whenever you allow the market forces to determine the exchange rate, we use the term depreciation. But when you say devaluation, the government will reduce the value of the domestic currency against a foreign currency. That is, if you devalue your domestic currency, essentially that will make exports more competitive. Is it okay? That will make exports much more competitive. So even if the government of USA imposes higher tariff, you will be able to generate sufficient amount of profit if you devalue your domestic currency. That is the first method. But there is a problem here. What is the problem? Already there is a concern that with Mr. Donald Trump becoming the president, he will impose a tariff. Chinese government may again target certain exports from USA, impose a tariff, and that will lead to trade war, which is already a possibility even with European Union. And on the other side now, if government of China will devalue its currency, already many countries including USA allege that China manipulate their currency, it might even lead to a currency war as well. So first solution, or there is a possible solution, devaluation of the domestic currency. Second solution is the government providing lot of subsidies. The government might simply identify the producers or exporters who are suffering because of these higher tariff imposed by the government of USA and provide lot of subsidies to nullify, to basically reduce the impact of tariffs imposed by USA. That is the second step. But now again the question arises, what kind of subsidies will be provided? Will it be export linked subsidy? If it is export linked subsidy, again USA can approach WTO and raise a complaint or file a complaint against China. because any developing country or a developed country which is a signatory of agreement under WTO cannot provide export linked subsidy if their per capita income is more than $1,000. So second, what kind of subsidies can be provided, but can Chinese government use subsidies to reduce the impact of tariff? Definitely yes. The third solution, right? Third solution is further basically reduce interest rates, lower the interest rates. And what is the impact of lowering of interest rates? Understand this. Whenever a country will reduce its interest rates, you will see there is an outflow of investments. There is an outflow of foreign investments, or even domestic investments will start going outside. And more outflow. Because of the outflow, the supply of domestic currency increases, demand for foreign currency increases. That will automatically lead to depreciation of domestic currency. And if there is a depreciation, your exports will become more and more competitive. So these are the three measures which the exporting country can use in order to reduce the impact of tariffs which are proposed or implemented by an importing country. So these are the things which are discussed in this article regarding the tariffs on China which are proposed by the new president, or the president who is going to, Mr. Donald Trump, who is going to become the president of USA now. Okay, so based on this, one more assignment. How many of the following measures may be used by the exporting country to reduce the impact of tariffs imposed by the importing country? Provide subsidy for the exporters, revalue the domestic currency, increase the interest rate. Three measures are there. How many of them can be used to reduce the impact of tariff? Right? Please find out what is the right solution. If not, wait, I'll discuss the question. I'll give you the key answer at the end of the discussion. Now, next article from yesterday's Hindu newspaper. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has called for share of states in the divisible pool to be increased to 50%. Now, although the newspaper, that is Hindu newspaper, covers only one angle, that is increasing the share to 50%, there are multiple demands which have been put forward by multiple states to the 16th Finance Commission, which is yet to submit the report to the government. What are the important concerns or the demands which have been raised by more than 10 states, mind you, not just Tamil Nadu, more than 10 states to the 16th Finance Commission? I am saying more than 10 states because, listen to me very carefully now. Whenever a finance commission is formed or set up, they will publish or they will submit a report to the central government. But before preparing the report and submitting the recommendations to the center, the Finance Commission will go to the states, seek the inputs, seek the views of the states before preparing the recommendations. So far, the 16th Finance Commission has gone to more than 10 states in India. And what are the demands which have been put forward or the concerns raised by these particular states? I'm summarizing this now. Point number one, all the states have asked for increased tax devolution. That is, right now, the 15th Finance Commission has recommended 41% of divisible pool to the states, and the remaining 59% of the divisible pool goes to the center. Their argument, that is the state's argument, is this one should be increased from 41% to 50%. Reason is the amount of expenditure incurred by the states is higher. Many of the schemes, many of the projects which are being announced by the center, there the states are also supposed to incur a certain amount of expenditure. So burden of expenditure on the states is higher and has increased in recent times. Hence, increase the devolution from 41% to 50%. That's a first. Second one, a lot of states, especially coming from southern part of India, a lot of these states have raised a concern regarding population weightage. Point number one, the population which is being considered by the 15th Finance Commission or which has been considered by the 15th FC to recommend is the 2011 population. They have taken the 2011 population. But these particular states, especially led by Tamil Nadu now, they are demanding that no, you should not be using population of 2011, rather shift back to 1971 population census, which was used by earlier Finance Commission, or finance commissions to recommend horizontal devolution. So that is the second one. Third one within this, the population weightage given by the 15th FC is 15%. In the horizontal devolution formula, it is 15%. Rather than allocating 15%, increase it to 20%. Increase this weightage to 20%. Okay. Third one, new parameter whenever you decide the devolution. What is the new parameter? They are recommending that the Finance Commission should also include what is the contribution of the states to the gross domestic product. What is the contribution of the states to the gross domestic product whenever the formula is recommended or formula is given for tax devolution. So that these states such as Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat or Karnataka, etc., they will get more and more devolution because you provide weightage to, let's say, contribution to GDP. Fourth one, cesses and surcharges. I hope all of you know this. Whenever you talk about central divisible pool, from which the amount will go to the states and also the center according to the formula given by the Finance Commission, doesn't include the cesses and surcharges which are imposed and collected by the center. Doesn't include that. And over a period of time, one of the criticism of the states has been the center imposes a very high amount of cesses and surcharges. It is able to generate lot of revenue. But because these are not part of the central divisible pool which are distributed to the states, states are losing lot of revenue. So what is the solution? The states have asked the Finance Commission to impose a ceiling. The ceiling, which was earlier, mind you, was recommended by the 10th FC. It was recommended by the 10th FC also. Wherein, if the central government will collect more than 10%, I repeat, if the center will impose and collect more than 10% of the total revenues in the form of surcharges and cesses, this excess above and over the 10% will be taken and will be counted as a part of a divisible pool, and now even the states can get part of this excess cesses and surcharges. So the states have demanded that the Finance Commission also recommend a similar, let's say, formula, a similar recommendation should be provided. And the fifth one, income distance. This one has been proposed for the first time by the states to the Finance Commission. That is, I hope you understand this. The state of Tamil Nadu has demanded that the Finance Commission should change the parameter of income distance. Right now, the income distance is basically calculated in this way. That is per capita gross state product, gross state domestic product, GSDP, gross state domestic product per capita is calculated, and you will arrange the states from the one which has earned the highest to the one which has earned the lowest. And the states with very, very low gross state domestic product per capita will be given more allocations under the income distance parameter. So the state of Tamil Nadu has demanded that rather than calculating simply nominal per capita, you should calculate the gross state domestic product per capita at PPP basis, purchasing power parity basis. Right? Their argument is, if you calculate at a purchasing power parity basis, which is, again, I hope you understand this as well, purchasing power parity provides information regarding what is the standard of living or quality of living. So basically, we should use the PPP per capita rather than nominal per capita as an income distance parameter. And not just this, the state of Tamil Nadu also has demanded that the income distance parameter has weightage of 45% in the 15th FC. It should be reduced to 35% weightage. So these are some of the concerns raised by the states and also recommendations provided by the states to the 16th Finance Commission. But before I go forward, it's not compulsory that the Finance Commission will listen to the states. The Finance Commission will consult, will take into consideration all the viewpoints of the states. But it doesn't mean that the Finance Commission must listen to the states. So they will create or they will have their own recommendations based on their studies, their, let's say, consideration, and you will have to wait and see what recommendations will be provided by the 16th FC to the center now. Okay. So this appeared as an article, very small article in Hindu newspaper, but lot of information was given in many other sources regarding the approach, or let's say regarding the advice or recommendations provided by the states to the 16th FC. Let me go to the next article. Meta to appeal the Competition Commission of India's 213 crore fine on its WhatsApp privacy policy. What is the story here? What is the issue? Back in the year 2021, WhatsApp announced a new privacy policy. They came out with a new policy. And according to the new policy, they asked the consent of the users. They asked the users to accept this policy. According to this policy, now WhatsApp can collect the data of its customers, such as your mobile numbers, and use this data to distribute or to provide this data to other service providers. This was essentially, in a nutshell, what was the policy of 2021. And when they announced this policy and asked the customers or the users of WhatsApp to provide a consent, lot of concerns were raised regarding the privacy issue. Because mind you, in case of India, even today, the concept of a data protection and privacy is an evolving matter. It's an evolving matter. And in many other countries, same kind of a concern was raised. In fact, one more country within the Europe, Ireland, they conducted investigations against this policy of WhatsApp and they imposed a heavy amount of fine on the WhatsApp. The parent company of WhatsApp is Meta. Now, what are the concerns in case of India? What are the issues regarding this kind of a privacy policy? Point number one, if the user doesn't accept this particular policy, in future, WhatsApp might be stopped. The customers may not be able to use the services. There will be question mark over the services provided for such users, because the company might simply say, if you do not accept this now, I will not continue the services to you. I'll stop providing services. And mind you, some of you will simply say, sir, what if WhatsApp doesn't provide? I will use Telegram. I will use other services, etc. Please go back to 2021. Even today, out of all the messaging service providers in India, WhatsApp is the most favored one, which has a very high amount of market share. So imagine what was the situation back in 2021. So obviously, there will be question mark over whether this kind of service will be available to customers if they do not accept it. And if they accept it, then this kind of, let's say, data, mobile numbers, etc. will be collected by WhatsApp and will be given to all the other companies, can be shared with all the other companies for certain amount of money. There will be issues regarding privacy then. There will be a lot of issue regarding privacy. How can you collect my data and start selling it to others? And bigger problem was the Meta company, which is a parent company. Meta owns WhatsApp. Meta owns multiple other platforms as well. Now, can this company collect the data from WhatsApp, use it to target the customers and keep on advertising according to what is your interest, according to what kind of search you are doing, etc., etc. And the problem here will be one more problem. Another problem here will be, when this company has so many multiple companies, Meta has so many other companies, don't you think it will abuse or it will basically use its dominant position and further increase its market share? So the third concern was, the dominance position, use of the dominant position of this company. So looking at all of these particular concerns, the Competition Commission of India has taken up this case suo motu. Please remember, the Competition Commission of India has taken up this suo motu, has conducted investigation and now has issued an order. The order simply has two most important points. One, the Competition Commission of India says WhatsApp has abused its dominant position to further its interest, and it has been imposed with 213 crore rupee fine. That's the first one. Second one is, the Competition Commission of India also has told WhatsApp not to give this information to anybody else for the next 5 years. Whatever information they have collected should not be given to anybody else for the next 5 years. So that is the second very important point in the order issued by Competition Commission of India. And the Meta company, which is the parent company of WhatsApp, has stated that they will appeal against the order issued by the Competition Commission of India. Done? So this update has been provided in today's Hindu newspaper. Please have a look at it. Now next article, PM Awas Yojana. The second phase of PM Awas Yojana was approved by the government earlier, and now Government of India has announced for the first time in a scheme concept of self-survey. Idea of a self-survey has been proposed under the PM Awas Yojana. Now what is this idea of a self-survey? But before that, what is PM Awas Yojana? Right, understand the evolution here. There is a PM Awas Yojana which has been implemented by the government. One of the component of this, or one of the areas that they are covering, is urban area, at PM Awas Yojana urban, and the second one is PM Awas Yojana Gramin, that is rural areas. PMAY rural or Gramin is also being implemented. Now this Gramin component is being implemented from 2016. We are implementing this from 2016. Under the first phase of PMAY Gramin, PMAYG, I'll start using the short form now, PMAYG. The first phase of the PMAYG was implemented from 2016, under which the government identified basically 2.95 crore beneficiaries, and housing assistance has been provided under this initiative. Essentially under PMAYG, if you are a beneficiary from a normal area, right, you will be given assistance of 1.2 lakh rupees. And if you are from, right, let's say hilly regions, the assistance will be increased to 1.3 lakh rupees. Right, so we have implemented the first phase. Around 2.6 crore households have already been constructed, and the government said we will finish off the remaining 30 plus lakh also very, very soon. Now, very recently, the Cabinet Committee has approved the second phase of PMAYG. In the second phase, now the target will be, I will be identifying 2 crore beneficiaries, and the same assistance will be provided. And for identification of the beneficiaries, now basically we have identified many of the people, that is the surveyors. We have identified more than 2.5 lakh surveyors who are being trained now, who will go to the villages and identify the beneficiaries. And usually, understand this now, rather than earlier system, right, which was usually a paper-based system, now under PMAY, facial recognition will be used. Remember this, facial recognition will be used. That is, a surveyor, when they want to identify a beneficiary and register this person as a beneficiary under PMAYG, under phase 2, they will have to use the facial recognition, use the mobile and conduct the facial recognition. And the guidelines also say that when the surveyor is doing the facial recognition, they will also have to recognize themselves. That is, first I will have to authenticate that I am a surveyor using facial recognition, then use the technology to identify somebody else and register the person as a beneficiary. This is what has been provided under the second phase. But there is generally one complaint or one concern raised regarding such kind of schemes. What if somebody who is supposed to get the benefit under the scheme will be not covered? Right? Maybe because, right, let's say he was not there, or the household was locked, the beneficiaries were not available for the surveyor, or the surveyor had a fight and wanted to take a revenge on this particular person, so they will not identify this person as a beneficiary. Then what is the solution to this? Now government simply says, under PMAY Gramin component, under the phase 2, the beneficiaries, that is, let's say a person who has not been recognized as a beneficiary as of now, if they want to be registered as a beneficiary, they can go for self-survey. That is, they can conduct their own, right, let's say facial recognition and upload the data to be recognized as a beneficiary under PM-AY Gramin component. This is the latest initiative of Government of India where they are using the technology to ensure that more and more services will be provided to the ordinary people. You can use this point either in the prelims if at all a question is asked, or even under the mains examination under, let's say, government reforms, or how is Government of India's policies helping to achieve the objective of more governance, less government, etc., etc. In addition to this, I want you people to make a note of another very important point regarding PM-AY Gramin component, which will be implemented for 5 years now from 2024 to 2029. What is the another important point? Compared to earlier, let's say, conditions or eligibility parameters, now under the phase 2, the eligibility parameters have been relaxed. The eligibility parameters have been relaxed. Please remember this. Right? For example, what? Until now, in a household, if a person has a monthly income of 10,000 rupees, then you cannot be identified as a beneficiary under PM-AY. You will not be identified. You will be excluded automatically. Now, government has increased this from 10,000 rupees to 15,000 rupees so that more and more people can become beneficiaries under PM-AY. Again, households here. Second, earlier you had a refrigerator. You will automatically become ineligible. You had a two-wheeler. You will automatically become ineligible. Now, the center says all these conditions have been relaxed. Even if you have a two-wheeler, you are eligible. You can become a beneficiary under Gramin component, right, etc. Even in case of land holding, earlier restrictions were there. Now these restrictions have been relaxed. So this is another very important change that the Government of India has done in the context of PM-AY phase 2. Please remember this. Next article, the Supreme Court of India has now stated that in January they will take up the petition filed by Mr. Amol Palekar, a very well-known film personality by the way, to basically identify and find out whether the censorship is being conducted correctly in India. Is there a need or is there a problem with the concept of a censorship, that is a CBFC methodology that we are following? What are the important points? Before the independence, we passed an act in 1918, Cinematograph Act. Cinematograph Act. According to the Cinematograph Act, if you want to exhibit a movie, you want to show a movie, first you will have to take a certificate. You will have to get a certificate. After independence, in 1952, the government passed the Cinematograph Act, under which they set up an authority, set up a body by the name of CBFC. To be very precise here, CBFC, the name was given only in the year 1983. Because before this, this was actually called as the Central Board of Film Censor. Central Board of Film Censor. Later, it was renamed as Central Board of Film Certification in 1983. And in the same year, one more important initiative was also done. That is, Government of India set up FCAT, Film Certificate Appellate Tribunal. That is, imagine I'm a, let's say movie maker, I'm a director or a producer, I've created a movie, I've directed a movie, the movie is ready, I'll go to CBFC, I'll submit the movie, I'll pay charges, etc. CBFC will recommend certain cuts, they will recommend certain changes, etc. I am not okay with the changes. I am not okay with the certificate which is provided by the CBFC, etc. In such cases, I can simply approach appellate tribunal. Right? This was basically the process which was established over a period of time by Government of India. But you also please make a note of this. The FCAT has been abolished now. There is no FCAT. FCAT was abolished as a reorganization exercise that was conducted by the government in 2021, under which they passed an ordinance and multiple bodies were basically abolished as an exercise of reorganization. Now basically you will have this kind of a doubt. So if there is no FCAT And if I'm not happy as a producer with the certificate given by CBFC, what should I do now? You can basically approach high courts. You can approach high court and file an application at respective high court. Now come back to the discussion. Mr. Amol Palekar argues that the documentaries which also require a certificate, by the way, for let's say display now or for exhibition, even the documentaries are supposed to get a certificate. But when I take these documentaries or any form of a movie or any kind of a movie to CBFC, they follow a process where panels are set up, they will watch movies, whatever objections they have, they will raise the objections, and we are forced to make certain changes. In fact, here itself there is a criticism. What is a criticism? It's a certification authority. It should simply certify. Either you can certify it as U, or you can certify it as a UA, or you can simply certify it as A, which is basically for, let's say audience viewership. Of course, there is one more type which is only for certain number of viewers or recognized viewers. So your duty is to simply provide a certificate. But in many cases, even in the past also, in multiple instances, there have been calls or there have been criticisms against the functioning of this authority. For example, I'll just give you two examples. Last year, there was a movie which was released, a Hollywood movie, which basically talked about the atomic bomb. Again, don't worry about the name also. In that particular movie, there was a scene which was objectionable to certain sections of the society. The Minister for Information and Broadcasting showed the displeasure, saying that we should not have given the certificate. We should have asked for a cut in the scene and only then we should have given the certificate. So now the question arises, is it a certification authority or a censoring authority? And very recently also, there was a movie which was released in the Bollywood animal movie, where in multiple scenes, certain people had certain objections regarding the scenes. Their argument was, these scenes are not in good taste for the society. Now again question arises, if the CBFC will basically impose cuts, there is a criticism saying that you are an authority, you are supposed to provide certification, not censorship. And if they don't do that, again certain people will criticize, why are you not enforcing cuts? Why are you not asking the producers or the distributors to cut these particular scenes? So the CBFC has been a point of, let's say, a debate in the last couple of years because of multiple movies which have been released in India. But the contention which has been raised by the filmmaker here is, he took certain documentaries to CBFC. Even though these were documentaries, there was a lot of delay, lot of problems which are created to provide a certificate. And the filmmaker simply argues that documentaries should not even be covered under CBFC. Because one, there is no provision which basically says documentary should be included. In fact, there is a provision which says, or provision which can be interpreted to say that documentaries are not included under the Cinematograph Act of 1952. And second concern which has been raised is, the people who are basically appointed in this, there is no provision in the Cinematograph Act which mandates the eligibility conditions. Are these film experts? Are these the people who have been there in the film, let's say, industry? Are they directors? No such conditions or no such eligibility criteria are present in the Cinematograph Act. So somebody who has been appointed by Government of India or by this authority to view the movie will raise objections, will raise concerns, will demand multiple cuts and changes in the movie. The argument is, how is this justifiable? The people may not know this. The one who is demanding it may not be aware, may not have the knowledge regarding how the filmmaking is there. But they are raising objections, they are demanding cuts. So in 2017, this petition has been filed in Supreme Court. Supreme Court now says, January, the upcoming January, Supreme Court will take up this particular petition filed by Mr. Amol Palekar. Done? So these are certain points regarding the article. Next article, Putin signs revised nuclear doctrine amid Ukraine war. on the thousandth day, right? 1,000 days of the Ukraine war was completed yesterday. So yesterday, Mr. Putin has signed a new doctrine, that is nuclear doctrine. The earlier doctrine was signed or was basically enforced from 2020. Now a new doctrine has been signed and enforced starting yesterday. What is the issue here? What is the problem with the new doctrine? Why many experts are worried about this kind of a doctrine? Basically, understand this. USA and Russia put together control around 88% of nuclear warheads, nuclear weapons in the global market. Now, Russia basically with this new doctrine says, if any country which is supported by another country which has nuclear weapons, I repeat, look at the changes which have been introduced now, which are much more grave now, which are much more dangerous. According to the new changes announced in the doctrine, if a country which doesn't have nuclear weapon is supported by another country which has a nuclear weapon, and this country attacks Russia, then it will be considered as an attack and nuclear weapons might be used now. Nuclear weapons can be used to fight this kind of a war. That kind of a change has been introduced. And not just this. According to the new doctrine, it also says, if a country which belongs to a group, right? I hope you understand. A country which belongs to a grouping where multiple countries are there, this one country attacks Russia, then Russia will simply accept it as the whole group attacking Russia. It will simply deem it as the whole group is attacking Russia, and right, proper response will be given by Russia. Nuclear weapons might be used. Right, so these are the very important changes that have been announced by Russia in the new nuclear doctrine. This is a one step much more grievous or much more dangerous compared to what it was announced earlier in 2020. And many experts point out that this is a direct, let's say, warning by Russia to many other countries. For example, from last couple of months, Russia has been warning multiple other countries which are supplying weapons to Ukraine. And very recently, on Sunday, Mr. Biden, the president of USA, signed, right, and approved Ukraine to use the weapons which are supplied by USA to attack on Russia. And Ukraine is already using these weapons, missiles, to basically attack on certain Russian cities. Now, many experts are looking at the new doctrine are saying this is a direct attack, or this is basically a direct warning by Russia to multiple other countries. It could be a group of countries, or it could be even be USA also, that Russia, if need be, is also willing to use nuclear weapons when these countries will get weapons from countries such as USA. So many of the experts have raised a concern regarding the nuclear doctrine or the new nuclear doctrine which has been signed by the president of Russia, that is Vladimir Putin. Now, next article, Sangita Kalanidhi Award. Right? Although this has been there in the newspaper for multiple months now, understand the basic concept here. In art and culture, you will come across types of music. Correct? Hindustani, Carnatic, etc. Dance and music forms. Now, this article focuses on one such type of a form of music, that is Carnatic. The Carnatic music is very famous, especially in certain southern states in India. And there are a lot of, let's say, people who are practicing Carnatic music. And one of the highest awards within Carnatic music fraternity is the award of Sangita Kalanidhi. Sangita Kalanidhi. Now, what is the issue all about? What is the debate all about? In 2024, Sangita Kalanidhi Award was announced to be given to a practitioner, Mr. T.M. Krishna. Against this announcement, there are multiple people, right? Basically, the people who are practicing the Carnatic music, they opposed it. And many of the people who have won the award basically returned the award, saying we oppose this announcement of Carnatic Music Award, that is the Sangita Kalanidhi Award, to Mr. T.M. Krishna. And at the same point of time, there are multiple musicians, multiple artists who also supported Mr. T.M. Krishna and said, this is well deserved. But what is the issue here? What is the problem? Problem is simple. Whenever you talk about Carnatic music, it generally focuses on Hindu deities, Hindu gods. The poems, or let's say the music which is composed and the poems which are written are basically talking about Hindu gods, praising Hindu gods. This particular musician, or let's say the practitioner, Mr. T.M. Krishna, doesn't believe that. He has basically broken this, right? Let's say the practice which has been there for many decades now, many centuries within the Carnatic music. He has included multiple verses from other religions, other languages as well, and basically used it under Carnatic music. Now this, many of the experts or many of the practitioners do not like this. They basically say, with the practice which is followed by this artist, he has insulted many of the people who are practicing Carnatic music. In fact, again, I hope you understand, in fact, whether you agree or disagree with the viewpoint of Mr. T.M. Krishna is, he is against the domination of Brahmins within this music community. That is, within the Carnatic music, he is against the Brahmin domination. That's the reason he says the music should be accessible to everyone. Music should be made accessible to all the other sections of the society, because the pupils are mainly from Brahmin caste and the teachers also prefer to have these kind of, let's say, pupils. This is not accessible to the children or people from other lower caste. That's the reason he basically composed a song celebrating the 100 years of Vaikom Satyagraha. Last year, he basically composed a song on this. And he has also praised the viewpoints of Periyar, which is again basically against the Brahmin domination. So there is this particular debate that has been happening in Tamil Nadu for last couple of months regarding whether this award, which is the highest within the Carnatic music fraternity, should it be provided to Mr. T.M. Krishna. There is there is opposition and there is a support as well. But in addition to this, there is one more issue. Apparently, there is certain statements which have been provided by Mr. T.M. Krishna, which are basically derogatory in nature, that is basically criticizing the practices of M.S. Subbulakshmi. And by the way, M.S. Subbulakshmi is also very well-known practitioner of Carnatic music. Even she has been conferred with Bharat Ratna as well. And the grandson of M.S. Subbulakshmi has approached the court, Madras High Court, and has filed a petition. And the petition simply says, the person who is criticizing this kind of a, let's say, artist should not be conferred with Sangita Kalanidhi Award. And point number 2, the Hindu newspaper, that is the Hindu group, also provides 1 lakh rupee cash prize to the person who is conferred with Sangit Kalanidhi Award. Is it okay? So one is award. Second one is anybody who wins the award is given a cash prize of 1 lakh rupees. And that award is named after Subbulakshmi, M.S. Subbulakshmi. So the argument of the litigant, or let's say the person who has filed the petition here, that the grandson, is that when he is criticizing my grandmother, he should not be given the award. And he should not be given even 1 lakh rupee cash prize. To this, the Madras High Court has given the order now. Point number 1, the High Court judge says, just because a person is critical of certain person or the practices of another person, he cannot be made automatically excludable from winning an award. That is not how the awards work. Who should be given the award is decided by the competent authority. Right? Just because they are criticizing, they should not be excluded or they should not be given the award. It doesn't work like that. Second, M.S. Subbulakshmi has written a will. She says in the will, which has been implemented now after her demise after 2004, she in the will writes that after my demise, there should not be any trust in my name. There should not be any, right, let's say, even award in my name. There should not be any other, right, let's say, the idols also in my name. So when the will has been implemented now, how can the Hindu provide a cash prize of 1 lakh rupees in the name, that is the award, in the name of MS Subbulakshmi? So the Madras High Court says, give the award of 1 lakh rupees and also give the award of Sangita Kalanidhi, but not in the name of MS Subbulakshmi. So these are certain very important, right, let's say, the points which have been mentioned in the form of an order by Madras High Court. Okay, next, by the way, the last article for today, Bima Sugam will help curb insurance mis-selling. Statement given by Debashish Panda, last but one article today, IRDAI Chief, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India. Now, what is the viewpoint? What is the problem here? The Finance Minister very recently raised a very appropriate, pertinent matter. The matter was mis-selling of insurance products and many other products in India. Now, when you say mis-selling, I'll just take one example here. Multiple instruments within the financial market. Example, it could be bonds, it could be, right, let's say shares, etc., are being offered to the investors as a guaranteed returns product. That is, the one who is selling the product to you, marketing the product to you, will say that you are guaranteed to earn this much amount of money. Whereas SEBI says, nobody can guarantee a fixed amount of return. Nobody can guarantee. Why? If you purchase a share of a company, any guarantee of what will be the market price of the share after 1 week, after 2 days, after, let's say, 6 hours? No guarantee. If you purchase a bond and sell it in the market after, let's say, 10 days, market price of the bond could be completely different. Right? So, SEBI simply says, which is the market regulator here, anybody who is promising a guaranteed returns is simply lying, is cheating. And nobody is supposed to provide guaranteed returns or a promise of guaranteed returns in the market. In the same way, there are multiple insurance products for which the information is not correctly provided to customer. For example, let me take a scene from a very famous movie. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen that movie. Paresh Rawal will sign the insurance document, and after his, right, let's say, story is stuck. After his store is stuck with the lightning, he goes to the insurance company, says, I'm supposed to get this much amount of coverage. And the manager says, you have not read the terms and conditions. And because you have not read the terms and conditions, you will not be given the insurance amount, because anything which is an act of God cannot be covered under insurance. And to this, Paresh Rawal says, this information was not given to me. The person who came to me asked me to sign here, here, here. And your terms and conditions are so small like an ant. I don't even understand. I am an illiterate person. So I hope you understand the concept of mis-selling is very rampant in India. Very rampant. And many of the people who do not have right knowledge regarding the market, who do not understand how the market operates, the kind of risk that is involved in investing such instruments, will a lot of times end up losing money because of that. So the finance minister has raised this kind of an issue, that is the forced selling by not giving appropriate information or mis-selling of the products, financial products to people. Now, adding to that particular point, the chair of IRDAI, the chief of Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, now has stated the IRDA has proposed a concept of Bima Trinity. Right? Understand this. It has proposed something by the name of Insurance Trinity. Under Insurance Trinity, 3 proposals are there. One is basically Bima Sugam, other one is Bima Vahak, and the third one is Bima Vistar. Okay, Bima Sugam, Bima Vahak and Bima Vistar. So the insurance, the regulatory chief says, with establishment or with setup of Bima Sugam, will be able to address the issue of the mis-selling of insurance product. Now, what is this Bima Sugam? It is essentially a marketplace or a platform where all the insurance service providers will have to be registered. And as a customer, now you will log on to this Bima Sugam website, you'll be able to compare and contrast different types of insurance products. All the information is provided, should be provided by the service providers in this particular portal, and you'll be able to take right decision by going through the information provided here. And it is not just a portal for comparing and contrast. If you purchase any of the insurance product, it shall be stored in this website itself. If you want to raise a claim, you can raise it using Bima Sugam itself. So the insurance regulatory chief says, with establishment of Bima Sugam, we will be able to address the problem of the mis-selling of insurance products. Done? Now, finally, the last article, very small article, just factual information in this. The study has found that 3 drug combos are very effective against high BP. High BP basically stands for high blood pressure. The Asians, and particularly within India, lot of population suffers because of very high blood pressure. And the people who suffer from very high blood pressure generally are forced because they need to keep it under control, to take multiple tablets within the day. So what is the solution to that? Rather than giving tablets of very high dosage, which will definitely have certain side effects or some amount of side effects, the solution now is the CCDC, Chronic Diseases Control, and All India Institute of Medical Sciences have conducted a study in multiple hospitals in Delhi. And they have found that under this particular study which has been conducted, rather than providing multiple tablets throughout the day to keep the BP under control, combination of multiple, right, let's say drugs can be used as a single tablet to keep the BP under control. I would advise all of you to remember the names of the drugs now. The drug combinations which have been recommended by this particular study is amlodipine, perindopril, amlodipine plus indapamide, and perindopril and indapamide. So these are the two combinations, two drugs. You can mix both of these drugs, create one tablet. Right? You can mix these 2 drugs, create one tablet. So rather than patient taking multiple, rather than the person taking multiple tablets in a day, one tablet will be more than sufficient. And according to the study, name of the study is given here, Treatment Optimization for Blood Pressure with Single Pill Combinations in India. According to this, either of the combinations, you can use the first combination, second, or the third combination, the effectiveness will be same and with very, very minimal or negligible side effects. So this is a study which has been published. Remember the names, they can be asked in the preliminary examinations. Done? So these are the 10 articles from the Hindu newspaper that I wanted to cover. Now what are the key answers? MCQ assignment number 28. Consider the following statements. UNFCCC has held the COP every year since 1995. Absolutely wrong. Why? It has held the UNFCCC, Conference of Parties, has been held every year from 1995. And if you do the simple CSAT, 1995, 1 and 2024, 30 years. So 30 rounds should have happened. But right now we are having only COP 29, which is being held in Azerbaijan, which means there is a miss somewhere. And that miss happened during the pandemic. So first statement wrong. CBAM has been, or CBAM has been proposed to address the issue of carbon leakage. Absolutely correct. I've discussed this. Right option will be only B. Second statement is correct. Next question. How many of the following measures may be used by exporting country to reduce the impact of tariffs imposed by importing country? Provide a subsidy for exporters? Yes. Revalue the domestic currency? No. If you revalue, your exports will lose competitiveness. You'll have to charge more to earn the same amount of money in the domestic currency. Increase the interest rates? No. If you increase basically the interest rates, then it will basically hurt the domestic market. So first statement is correct. And first statement is correct. Revaluing is a problem, right? And increasing the interest rate will also lead to appreciation of domestic currency. So right option will be option A. Only one of them is true, or only one of them can be used. So these are the questions, as well as let's say the topics that I wanted to cover in today's Hindu newspaper. Before I wind up, again I repeat this. If you want to attempt the test, that is the questions, MCQs for these particular topics, please do join our Telegram channel. If you want a weekly update regarding economy articles from different newspapers, please do join my Telegram channel. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it now. Thank you. Have a great day.